If you ask a parent or a teacher how they feel about the tech in teenagers' hands today, the anxiety is almost palpable. Between the constant pull of smartphones and the sudden arrival of generative AI, adult panic has hit maximum capacity. This chart shows the adoption curve for generative AI among Gen Z. It reveals that nearly half of young people are already using these tools on a weekly basis, compounding the stress for the adults trying to guide them. Faced with that kind of rapid change, the default reaction is often to treat digital technology exactly like a cigarette. We lean heavily into an abstinence model. The logic here is straightforward. Since the screen is the source of the trouble, the solution must be device bans, screen time detoxes, and constant hard limitations. Yet, even with phones in lockers and notifications silenced, the friction remains. Teachers find themselves cast as full-time device police, while students report feeling just as digitally overwhelmed as before the bans were in place. These restrictive rules are hitting a dead end because they are built on our rigid assumptions of what we think teens are doing, rather than their actual lived experiences. Take the assumption that teens are primarily using generative AI to cheat on their schoolwork. When you actually talk to high schoolers, the picture is much messier. Some report using it just to keep up, feeling that AI is skewing the grading curve, and they have to adapt simply to survive a relentless, competitive academic grind. But researchers who sat down to listen uncovered something entirely separate from schoolwork. Many teenagers report using AI chatbots because they are lonely. They treat the bot as a safe, non-judgmental sounding board that, in their own words, simply listens to them. By labeling this technology strictly as a cheating tool, we blind ourselves to the critical emotional voids these teenagers are actively trying to fill. Then there is the second assumption, that teens are happily and mindlessly addicted to their social media feeds. Again, the interviews reveal a different story. Teens often express deep frustration about feeling glued to their screens. They frequently use their phones as digital pacifiers to soothe social awkwardness, rather than out of pure enjoyment. This diagram shows the attention economy, a system harvesting every click, pause, and typo to build predictive behavioral models. For teenagers, this targets deep vulnerabilities. Algorithms leverage their intense biological drive for pure connection and validation. Young people aren't lacking willpower. They are locked in an asymmetric fight against machines built to capture and hold their attention. The final assumption is perhaps the most dangerous. We believe we know exactly which apps they are using and what they are doing on them. When adults actually sit down and observe the teenagers in their lives, they often realize the platforms they feared the most aren't even the ones dominating their kids' screen time. Because we act on our outdated assumptions, we end up fighting the wrong battles, missing the chance to teach the specific digital literacy skills they actually require. Assuming we automatically understand their digital worlds leaves young people abandoned to navigate complex, hidden pressures on their own. Once the reality of how teenagers experience their digital lives is clear, the strategy of total abstinence is exposed as a dead end. Think of this shift like a driver's education program. Simply removing the vehicle from the driveway does nothing to prepare a teenager for the realities of the highway once they finally sit behind the wheel. This infographic shows the framework we need to adopt instead. We have to move past the rigid blocks of abstinence and build toward digital agency. Digital agency means actively teaching students how to navigate their devices. It's about building literacy, prioritizing thoughtful decision-making, and giving them meaningful choice, intentionality, and control over how technology fits into their lives. The first step to building this agency requires a shift from adults. We have to put down our judgment and lead with curiosity. We need to actively ask young people what parts of their tech are genuinely serving them, and then work alongside them to manage the habits they actually want to change. If we want the next generation to thrive in a digital future, the most effective intervention is to sit down and listen to them.